Hey everyone, it's Miella and we are back again with another helpful 5 tips video. 5 tips every singer should do before stepping into the recording studio. These are tips that may seem super obvious and like, yeah, I already do that for my life. These 5 tips are a must before stepping into a recording session. Sleep well, stay hydrated, warm up properly, know your lyrics, and practice prior to your recording session. This will make the process fun and enjoyable, and you will be so proud of yourself when you walk away from that mic being like, I nailed it. Especially if you are paying for the time and you don't have a studio in your house. Please, just take these into consideration. Here we go, baby. First one, sleep. Get a good night's rest. Your voice is your instrument. Truly, whatever's going on in your body, it is going to affect the way you sing. Do you ever wake up feeling super like sluggish and groggy and like run down? You're talking low, like when someone calls you, they're like, hello. So getting a really great night's rest before a big day in the studio, especially if you're gonna be there for like 5 to 8 hours. Don't be up drinking, don't be up yelling all night at a party. You wanna be like, wake up and be like, let's do this, I'm ready to go. Not like, oh my God, I need coffee because if I don't get it, I'm never gonna make it through. And then coffee makes you dehydrated, which is going to lead me to my next thing. You wanna rest your voice, rest your body, wake up, feel good, and kill it. What's going on here? What is that hair? Oh my gosh, what is going on? God, I ran out of hairspray and my hair is really reflecting that. Hydration. Being hydrated as a singer is key. Like I just said 2 seconds ago, whatever's going on in your body is going to affect your voice. Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I'm so thirsty, and you feel like you haven't had water in days? You wanna make sure that you get ahead of being dehydrated because it's very hard to catch up. It's like putting lotion on your skin, right? Like you don't feel like dry and then until you're dry and then you can't put enough lotion on because you're already so dry it's gonna take like forever. I don't know why, but I think of like when I'm dehydrated and my vocal cords are that dry feeling, like I think of sandpaper and like the vibration that happens in here when you're talking or singing. You don't want it to be like dry and gritty. You want them to be like lubricated, nice and soft and like jello-y. So everything is just easier to speak and sing. And honestly, like when you're singing and you're drinking a ton of water, you're gonna be like burping and like, hold on, can I take a sip of water? When you're nervous, you ever get like that dry mouth feeling where you're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And you're like breathing, whatever. Yeah. Like your mouth will just feel like a desert. Those nerves can definitely make you feel really dehydrated and it's going to be harder to sing and control your pitch. There may be lines that you need to sing over and over again, and when you're dehydrated, you're gonna get hoarse. It's gonna hurt when you're like reaching for those high notes or the super low notes. You constantly need to get it, lubricated. I don't really love that word, but like that's what they say. Who's they? Google? I don't know. Hydration. Do it daily. Warm up before you get to the studio. Warming up before singing is something that is so easy to slack on. I do that a lot. I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. Who cares? Let's just wing it. No. When I warm up, I see a huge difference in my voice, and I'm sure you do too. You do not want to show up to the studio and be like, hold on guys, I need 10 minutes because like I said, time is money. If you have a hired engineer, like sitting down, ready to go, you don't want to be like, excuse me, I need some time to myself. Like, no, you show up prepared, you show up ready to go, warm up at home. And even if you don't have the time to do a proper warm up, there are a couple vocal exercises that I love to do that are quick and easy and warm up from the very bottom of your voice all the way up to the top and then all the way back down. I also like to do a gentle head shake because it loosens up the muscles in your neck. You do some shoulder rolls, loosen it up, When you walk into a gym, do you just like get on the treadmill and like raise it up to like the fastest speed that you can possibly run and just start sprinting? No. I mean, if you do, you're a maniac. Like, do it. But Most people will walk, get their body warm. Do the same for your voice before you show up to the studio. If you're stretching at the gym, are you gonna like stretch one leg? No, you're gonna do both, okay? You're gonna stretch your legs and not your arms? Warm up everything. Lyrics. Know your lyrics. Please, for the love of God, know your lyrics. This is just a side note, but when I'm at like shows, I cannot stand looking at a singer reading a sheet. Unless you're like playing like a really long show and it's like you're a hired musician for like a wedding or something and there's just hundreds of songs that you need to learn. I get that, okay? But I was in a cover band and I was playing multiple shows a weekend and I never used a lyric sheet. I always practiced and knew those songs inside and out. Know your lyrics before showing up to the studio, because if you are in the middle of recording and you forget a word or an entire line, you're like, oh my God, what comes next? You are going to be wasting time. Also, it takes you out of the moment, like mentally, and you have to think about every single word you're singing instead of just like feeling and knowing the story and the message that you're trying to get across. Now, if you do need lyrics, that's okay. I write songs and then by the time I go to record it, I completely forget about it. Like, that happens. But like I said, don't be like me. I write songs all the time and someone will be like, oh my God, I love that song. How does it go? And I'm like, I don't know. I wrote it so long ago, I forget the lyrics. Or if I wrote it too recent, it hasn't like sunken in yet, and then I totally forget the words all the time. I can't tell you how many times I stepped up to the mic, and I'm sure Rico wanted to kill me. He does. He always, yeah. So there will be one word that will ruin the entire take, and I have to come back a second time to re-sing it. It could be something as little as so or but. Trying to think of something off the top of my head. So, but if I just sit right here, right? Or so if I sit right here, it totally throws off like the whole line, and it really does change the sentence of it making sense. It's so frustrating. So like really study those lyrics and know those pickup words too, because they will really throw you for a loop. I am not a fan of reading lyrics off of a phone. Sue me. I think you should bring it back and like make it old school. Take it off the phone, put it on paper, print it out, write it out. Don't use your notes, because if they're super sloppy like mine, where I'm just like writing lines all over the place, that is just as bad as not knowing the lyrics. But if I'm reading off my phone and I'm like into the mic, my mic's right here, by the way, so that's why I'm like going up. But if I'm reading my lyrics and I'm like singing into the microphone and I'm looking over here. Also, if your phone is like super close to the microphone and you get a text message, whether it's on like airplane mode or do not disturb, messages come through. I get stuff like through Wi-Fi apparently, but it has ruined my takes where it's like zoom, zoom, and I'm like, then I gotta redo the take. Or my ADD kicks in if you're like me and you're like, let me just scroll for like 3 seconds. It's super distracting. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? Do yourself a favor. Put the work in prior. That brings me to my last point here that I want to make. And everyone says this. Practice, practice, practice. It's the truth. You got to do it. Because guess what? When you show up to the studio, if you don't know that song, and you are the singer, whether you are a hired musician, like a session musician where you're recording demos for somebody else's songs, or if you're in a band, if you walk up to that mic and you are not prepared, it is going to show and you are not going to be able to fake it. Trust me. When you are going into the studio, especially for paid time, you better know your stuff. Other people who are involved in that recording session are not going to be patient for you. And if you're in a band and there's like guitarists, bass players, drummers, like I guarantee you they're showing up and they practice their parts. You do not want to waste time scrambling, listening to voice memos, like looking through your lyrics, like, you know, asking people like, oh, how does that part go? And honestly, it's just gonna make you look super unprofessional. Although I have a studio in my house, if I didn't practice the song enough before stepping up to that mic, My vocal comping situation gets very out of hand, and it is like so annoying. When you're in a recording session, it is a very vulnerable and nerve-wracking experience unless this is something that you do all the time. There's no music, you're in a quiet booth or in a room, and people could hear every little inflection in your voice. If you crack or your pitch is out of whack, it's like so embarrassing. There's something about pressing a record button and it's like, I'm nervous. If you practice prior, you are going to be more confident. There will be no questions in your head floating around like, does this sound good? Also, it's a muscle memory situation going on. If you sing something over and over and over again, you don't even have to think twice. You're confident. You know your voice is capable of singing those lines, notes, whatever. And it's going to take off the stress and the pressure. Also, you will be more efficient while recording. If you didn't practice beforehand and then those troubled areas like creep up during your session, you're gonna have to re-sing things a lot, and let me tell you, your voice will get tired really quickly, especially if it's a challenging part. If that happens, you could also sabotage your entire recording session, and you might need to like come back another day because your voice is just shot. There's totally a stigma with singers already. People say that we're lazy, we have the easiest job, you get to just show up, record, and like bounce, and then like everyone else to do the heavy lifting for you. Don't add fuel to that fire. You do not want to walk out of the studio like crying, like, oh my God, why didn't my voice work today? Or like, why couldn't my head voice come out strong enough? It's because like you weren't prepared. And it's like a really defeating, terrible moment to walk out of the studio and feel like a complete failure that day. Get it? Got it? Good. Let me just end it right here and say this. Doing these little minor steps will completely change your experience in the studio, especially if you're not used to doing it and it's new to you. Recording should be fun. That is the moment you are taking your songs, your voice, and you're putting it into a tangible product that you can share to the world. So do yourself a favor, put the work in prior, so this way it's an enjoyable experience and you can walk away feeling proud of yourself. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you. Goodbye.